Welcome to FM Corner. I'm Danny Koontz, Director of Relationship Management with Windy City Equipment. Today, my guest on the podcast is Bill Schaphorst. Bill is the Vice President of Business Development for MaintenX, and I'm very happy that he's agreed to join me today. Bill, how are you, sir?
Hey, Danny, doing great. Just wanted to say what an honor it is to be on your podcast. Want to say thank you for all that you've done for our industry, for RIFMA, for your leadership. I heard at the RIFMA trade show a month ago that you're retiring, and so just wanted to say that. And for me personally, you've been a mentor and a coach, and I just wish you the best in retirement.
That's very kind. Thank you so much. Let's talk about you a little. Talk about your career. Kind of where did it start to where you are today?
I didn't bounce around a lot in my career. I started out with out of college. I started with an industrial electrical component company called Furnace Electric out of Chicago.
Uh-huh.
I was in Chicago for a year. They ran me through their sales training program. I always knew that account management and sales were my passions. I was lucky at knowing that at an early age. And after 1 year of training, they moved me to northern New Jersey. So it was a Midwestern boy. I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and they threw me into northern New Jersey, right by Giant Stadium.
Sure.
And so that was quite the experience. I worked there for Furnace Electric for 3 years. And then in 1988, I moved over to a Square D company where I worked with electrical contractors in northern New Jersey. So I've got lots of stories if you're interested.
That was fun.
Yes. And then in 92, I was transferred to Albany, New York, where I, for 1 year, I managed the electrical contractors in that market. And then after a year with Square D, and by that time Schneider Electric had purchased them. And I moved into the industrial side of the business and eventually took on a job managing our global work with International Business Machine, IBM. Traveled all over the world. And then in 2001, I switched to York International, and I helped them start and grow their commercial HVAC refrigeration service business, multi-site business. And that's kind of what really officially moved me into the multi-site facility maintenance business. I worked for York until 2012, and of course in 2006, York got purchased by Johnson Controls. And so I was working for Johnson Controls up until January of 2012, where I then took a job as a director of business development for MaintenX. And then a few years later, I was promoted to the vice president of business development. And that brings us to today.
Absolutely. Well, kind of what's your role and responsibility at MaintenX today?
A great question. My role is of course to provide coaching and mentoring to our sales folks on our team. Our core business is serving multi-site national and regional retailers and restaurants, restaurant chains. And so, with my experience, help the sales team, and then of course coordinate. And this is probably the most important thing: coordinate client expectations with what we can deliver. And that is so important to make sure that at the end, the client and your service team understands what the expectations are, what the deliverables are. And, young salespeople are very good at saying yes and agreeing to things. So helping them, provide the reasonable expectations and deliverables to our clients and to our service teams is probably the thing that I'm coaching a lot.
I think that's a very important point, and I had never done any sales. I'm not a sales guy at all, but have done some with Windy City, and one of the things that I learned really quickly was lack of understanding of expectations. And I went back to my facility career, and I knew that when I was managing facilities, I sat down with everybody. It's okay. Here's the expectations. This is what I want. Here are the things that will cause you great pain if you don't follow them. I don't have many rules, but I got two or three, and these are them. So you know. And then the other part of that that's really important was for me as a customer to ask the vendors, what do you need from me? What are your important expectations that we need to do? Because it can't be one sided, doesn't work. And I think many times that's missed, and that's a very important part. Is everybody wants to get a deal and get rolling, and it'll be great, and it's great until it's not. And many times that's because no one sat down and talked about what we're looking for.
Yes.
Absolutely,
It's so hard to learn by doing.
sure.
And so, in fact, I'll share with you one of the things that we do as a standard at MaintenX is before we even accept a work order with our client, we insist on a meeting with our service teams and the client, and we go through a life of a work order and make sure that every expectation is understood from order acceptance to communication to how quotes are done, how you want status. All of that is captured and then put into a record for that individual client. And so we try to figure out those expectations in advance.
Sure. It's very critical. Kind of talk a little bit for MaintenX. What kind of type of customer do you target? Who do you want, and what kind of customer do you not want? Because there is such a thing.
There is actually. I'll share with you that it's interesting that in the end, you end up doing business with the clients who have similar cultures. It just sorts out that way. And, at MaintenX, we're driven by ethics, by saying yes, by never giving up. And if it's a reasonable request, then it'll get done. And so when clients have that mindset and also do business that way, they are a very good fit for our team. And when I look at our base of clients today, I can see those characteristics. And then Danny, when you have differences in culture, the problems surface almost immediately. And generally, when those problems surface quickly, you just don't get started, and the beginning of that relationship unravels,
Sure.
and it typically it doesn't continue.
Sure.
So
I think, and I always call it, it's like rule changes. It's like everything with a certain customer changes. And what you asked for yesterday, I did, and that's wrong today. And when the rules shift or everything that you worked out and this is how we're going to work together moves on a daily basis, you can't keep up. And all you do is, as hard as you try, you just make the customer matter. Whether they should be mad or not doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they are the customer. But the rule changing and the switching, I want you to communicate this way. And then you do that. Okay, that's not right. Well, wait a minute. I'm trying to follow. It'd be like your kids. You got to be consistent in how you manage your kids, because if you're not, they're going to be all over the place.
Yes. You're making me think of some experiences, where I've, in the back of my mind, I've thought, why are you creating all this work?
Mm-hmm.
Or how do you find time to do all of this? I mean, it's true. I can tell pretty quickly, whether it's going to work or not. And we're very fortunate to have a portfolio of Fortune 500 clients that really value our relationship. We do business reviews on a consistent frequency, and it's really helped MaintenX grow 5 times
Sure.
since the time I joined back in 2012.
That's great. That's awesome. This question kind of ties in, but what do you look for in a customer? Like, okay, today I'm Bill and I'm going to go out and I'm looking for a new customer. What are you looking for a customer for your company?
Well, that's a fair question. First of all, on the surface, we're a multi-site company. We have a national coverage. We have 350 technicians that do plumbing and electrical and handyman and HVAC work. We do that in-house. 75% of our revenue is generated by a MaintenX tech. Of course, we do a brokering or a subcontractor piece of our work, but that's not our core. And so, of course, you have to be multi-site or regional.
Sure.
For that client to be successful with MaintenX. And then, what I've shared with my team, because this is a question I've been asked many times, is that what truly is going to be a successful client for MaintenX? And that's a client that has a strategic view of their store or restaurant environment that's so important to them that it's how success is created for their customers. And when that environment is strategic to driving sales and success, then that means that client is not going to subcontract out or farm out the management of that environment because it's so important.
Sure.
So those clients will have their own staff, they'll manage vendors, and they'll keep us close. And it's typically in those relationships where they manage us contractors, and their store environments are so important that those relationships are our most successful.
Are you more heavily weighted on the restaurant side or the retail side, or about even?
If you looked at revenue, because we've got some really big national chains, pharmacies and the dollar stores and that have where we take care of thousands of their stores. And so from a revenue standpoint, if you looked at it, it would weigh heavily to the multi-site retailer. But if you looked at the numbers, I would say that we've got an equal number of relationships with restaurants, national chains. So we of course we value our restaurant relationships.
Sure. So it's kind of balanced.
Yes.
That's good, which is always good. Give me 2 characteristics, Bill, that people on your team need to have to be successful at MaintenX.
That's a very important question. And you have to care. You have to care. And, I've seen it with team members who last, and then team members that get let go. And that is that, when our clients have issues, they have, invariably in our business, Danny, the work order goes south.
Yeah.
Because we've got human beings out in the field that don't think like you and me.
Sure.
And so problems are created that create disruption.
Sure.
And then that disruption needs to be managed. And so we stick with it. Our key employees and team leaders care a lot about our clients and the service experience that they have with MaintenX. and they'll work it and ensure that our clients are happy with our service deliverables. They care. And if anything, that is the most important, characteristic. Um, if you think you're going to be working at MaintenX and at 4:55 take an EMS call and then at 5 p.m. say, "Hey, look, I got to go. My shift is done," then you don't belong at MaintenX. So I think that's really the number one character. When I look at my team and I look at our folks, it's they care.
They care, and that's critical. It's absolutely critical. Sure. What has your association with RIFMA done for you and your company since you became a part?
Well, we joined in 2012. MaintenX did, and that was in conjunction with my joining MaintenX. And then, I seem to remember a meeting with the director of facilities at Ruby Tuesdays. When was that?
Some ancient guy.
Yeah, I met somebody. Huh.
Yeah, old guy.
And actually, he I think he felt sorry for me, and he gave me some business in Florida.
Sure.
And it really got us started in the restaurant business. And really, the business just flourished and grew from there. So did our relationship with RIFMA. I was awarded the Vendor of the Year award in 2020. Yes, for the past, I think the last 4 or 5 years, we've been the premier sponsor at the RIFMA trade show, advertised in the magazine and email releases. So RIFMA is very important to MaintenX and our owners, and it's been the best way to sum it up. It has been a venue for tremendous relationship development, and from there allowed us to find clients that we could add value to.
You won the award 2020 in Denver.
Yes,
the day before COVID shut the world down. Right.
That was about it. Yeah.
I won the MVP award. Same year.
I didn't pick that time.
Yeah, I didn't either because I was scared we were going to get home. But I won the MVP award in 2020, same year, same conference that you did. The day before they shut the country down. That was wild. So I think, that. Bill, I've heard a lot of folks talk about RIFMA and I think relationship building is a big part of that. And I know as a facility manager, when I was looking for companies, my first question was not, okay, come and do a dog and pony show and we'll talk about it, and we won't do that. Just tell me who you work for, because who you work for on the restaurant side is more important to me. That's what matters, because when you tell me, odds are I know who that person is, or I know a representative from that company. I'll go ask them. That's the greatest thing you could do, because if you're doing work for my competitor, who I respect, that works for me. I don't need to know anything else, and I think that ability and for people to be able to ask and talk among each others and that's the best PR the vendor could want is people talking on their behalf, and it grows.
Danny, referrals are so important. And here I am. I'm in the twilight of my career. I've been doing facility work for 30 years. And it amazes me. It seems almost every day, somebody that I had an experience with or touched in the past, we establish contact and figure out a way to help each other. And it's very powerful. I didn't start out that way. I didn't start out believing that the relationships for trade shows were beneficial. I remember back in 2001 when I went to my first trade event where actually there was, RIFMA was part of Prism way back
Sure.
when.
Oh yeah, very first
Yeah,
conference we had.
yeah. And I remember, my attitude and mindset was that geez, how come I'm not getting any clients? What the heck?
Sure.
And but then I joined some committees. I got involved. I um, and guess what? You get what you give. Actually, I think with RIFMA you get much more back.
Sure.
So so um,
You have to be in, you have to be involved to make it work. And I've told many people who have said, I'm joining Ripman, I'm going to do this and that. I'm like, well, I'm going to give you some advice. I'm going to tell you to make it a 3-year plan to start with, because it's going to take a while. For year one, you're just trying to figure it out. You're not going
yep.
in there and get 100 work orders signed. That isn't how it works. That's not what we're doing. Give it 3 years. And then I advise you to get involved, join a committee, join something, be a part of Ripma Gives, get involved so you're around people and you learn and you meet people. And that will come back to you and it will help. But you've got to be involved. You can't just, I signed up and, here we go. That isn't it. You got to work it.
That's well said. Well said.
You got to work it. So,
yep.
Give me the best lesson you've learned in business, Bill.
There's many. There's many lessons. Danny, I just think that for me as a professional, sales professional, and also a leader within my company, that what's important is to make sure you do what you say when you say you're going to do it.
Sure.
And I remember back, when I was living in northern New Jersey, and I was attending I was getting my MBA at night school, and I attended a sales and marketing class taught by this sales professional who back then was fairly famous. He just taught a night school because he got a kick out of it. His name was Jerry Tier. And I remember him writing on the blackboard, a professional is defined as a person who does what they say when they say they're going to do it. And that's always stuck with me. And so that to me is the lesson that's always paid off. Return that phone call. If or if you say this, the tech is going to show up at this date, or whatever promise you make, when you consistently follow through on your commitments, people remember.
Absolutely. I mentioned it in a little different way in a presentation I did recently, but do not be the king or queen of over-promising and under-deliver.
Right.
Don't do that. That's what kills you. Do what you tell people you're going to do. Like you said, when you tell them you're going to do it, people will remember, and they have respect for that. So,
and in fact, people remember when you don't more than they remember when you do.
Absolutely.
So, yes, you screwed me.
Mm-hmm.
And that can hang for decades. Yes.
Sure. Absolutely. Yes. What's your go-to saying, Bill? Kind of keeps you moving every day, or it's what's stuck on the wall on your desk? What is it?
I said it. I did. I've had the saying for 20 years. No, geez, how long has it been? That was probably 88. So it's been 35 years, 40 years. So it truly is. Make sure that you keep your commitments. Do what you say when you say you're going to do it.
Sure.
And I think those are really good words to live by, and to and it really covers all aspects of your day.
Sure.
And the work that you do.
It's that building trust, building respect, so that the person on the other end knows when you make a commitment, you know it's going to happen because their track record proves it, and you don't worry about it and so on. So much work is caused by, you told me you'd get back to me and you didn't. So now I got to call you again. And then you're going to call me in the morning. Then you don't call me in the morning. And then I got to, and you don't take any time to realize I have bosses too. And I have people who are asking me the very same questions I'm asking you and understanding that piece. And it's a huge part of it. But there's a
Also,
big, big difference in the fact of when I'm speaking to someone, they say, okay, I'll call you back before the end of the day. And I know that's golden. Even if they don't have an answer, they're going to call me because that's what they said. And I know that and I can
right,
trust in that. Makes all the difference in the world.
right. Even if it's bad news,
Yeah,
call,
absolutely.
let them know. And
Absolutely.
it's just so important to and actually it goes back to caring, and because I think caring goes along with making sure that you keep your commitments. You know,
Something,
facility
something,
managers facility managers don't have time to manage you.
sure,
They don't.
sure.
And so if facility managers spend a good bit of time managing you to provide services, well, guess what? It's not going to last long.
I made a comment to Norm Dutcher a few years ago as we were just discussing business and so on. I said, you know what, Norm, unlike fine wine, bad news doesn't get better over time. And he reminded me of that at the conference. And so I'm doing another presentation next week on conflict management and so on. And I'm putting that tagline in there in my presentation because, people's like, well, I don't know what to say. Doesn't matter. Figure it out. Say something, anything. Waiting is the worst thing. But you're absolutely right. Do what you say when you're going to do it. And
It's
people
true.
want it. It's how you build your career. And at the end of the day, you want people to say he or she did exactly what they promised to do.
Yes. And in fact, Danny, I've made as geez, yesterday I made a couple of phone calls. Look, I don't have any answers for you,
But I'm
but I just
on.
want you to know we're working on it.
Sure, absolutely.
Sure,
That's the way you got to do it
absolutely,
every
yeah.
time. My last question, Bill, where's MaintenX going to be in the next 5 years? What's your long term?
A great question. I mentioned earlier that we've grown 5 times in the last since I've joined the company in 2012, and our ownership has a goal of being self-performing in every major metro in the country, Danny. That's their goal. And a year and a half ago, we moved into Texas, Oklahoma, and Colorado, and where we just got our licensing in Arizona. And so we just keep expanding and keep growing, and the goal is to again be self-performing in all the major metros. And so I would expect in another 5 years for MaintenX to be 50 to 100% larger.
Right.
And I think we know the formula for success and how to take care of customers and how to deliver quality service. And when you have that formula, clients generally want to send you more business.
Sure.
So and also being a one-stop shop helps. With HVAC capabilities, refrigeration capabilities, plumbing, electrical, handyman. We're going to continue providing all of those. That laundry list of
Sure.
of services trades to our clients. And of course with our goal of being everywhere. And I know that our owners have tremendous passion for that goal.
That's great. Great answer. Well, Bill, thank you so much for taking your time today to kind of spend on FM Corner, talk with me, and to all the people that can kind of listen, learn a little bit more about maintenance, learn about more of your company, and if they have an interest, hopefully they will pick up the phone and give you a call. But I truly appreciate you taking time today.